Madam President. A story from Richard Hampton's Gallery of Tragedies. Narrated by Claire Coyle. My little sister scares me. It's not her size nor her strength that does it. She's only 5'4" and weighs no more than 110 pounds. You could find 8th graders who could rival my sister in terms of physical intimidation. It's not her words either. She's a powerful woman, a true role model to every American, young or old, rich or poor, grown or young. Her oratory skills can't be rivaled. Her talks are more sermons than speeches. Her audience as captivated as devoted Christians at Sunday service. Now, what truly scares me, what truly intimidates me, is my sister's determination. I am her only sister. Ronnie, Jim, Clyde, Barrett, and Sam made our lives living hell growing up. Countless evenings were spent running throughout our little southern home, begging the boys to stop terrorizing us. From endless nuggies to Indian burns to incessant name-calling and demeaning. You'd think we would have grown up to be the stereotypical housewives the late 50s and early 60s women wanted us to be. Unfortunately for Phyllis Schlafly, we came of age during the swinging 60s. My sister and I gladly traded in our oven mitts for flaming bras and peace sign bedazzled bags. We saw lives that our mothers never would have dreamed of and leapt at those lives as soon as we could. I married Timothy when I was 22. While I always anticipated the proposal, the unexpected pregnancy sure did speed up the process. As soon as John was born, my sister married. We had an inside joke that she was always trying to catch up to me and was only seconds behind on every major moment in life. Her son James was born so soon after John, our family was convinced we'd planned the whole thing. I insisted my sister had just been jealous and was, once again, trying to catch up with me. But she always insisted it was purely coincidental that our sons were so close in age they were practically brothers. Eventually, my sister passed me. On everything. She had 3 more kids than I did. Her marriage survived, while mine wilted and died. I chose a life I thought would do second-wave feminism proud as a university professor, teaching at the height of the civil rights movement. But I was quickly overshadowed by my little sister when she was sworn in as the First Lady of the state of Mississippi, and soon became a litigator in the office of her husband, the governor. The people around her often accused me of being jealous, like I had a chip on my shoulder, like I was envious of her success and how drastically our lives diverged. That couldn't be farther from the truth. I was only concerned for her and always cautioned her about moving too fast in life. It's what Mom and Dad would have wanted me to do for my little sister. Protect her. My sister became quite wealthy, and as a result, her regal, blonde, sophisticated appearance quickly overtook the hippie brainiac look I was going for in the classroom. Being the first lady of one of the 50 states was a huge deal, of course, but for whatever reason, it never hit me how big of a deal she was until she hit the front cover of Time. I still remember the headline, "The New Miss of Mississippi." By 1978, my sister was elected as the 12th ever woman to serve in the United States Senate and the first woman in the history of the state of Mississippi in the position. At the time, she was only one of 2 women in the entire Senate, joined only by sweet Marianne Allen from Alabama, alongside 98 other old white men. On the campaign trail, she made light of the countless instances of harassment, sexism, and creepy behavior that followed her career in the upper chamber. Behavior she conceded wasn't much better even 30 years later. To her, an ideal U.S. Congress was one led by women who could hold their own against even the crustiest, racist, oldest white man, a breed who seemed to flock to the Senate like bees to honey. It was that attitude that propelled her into the cabinet of 44th President of the United States, Samuel Gardner. President Gardner rode a Democratic wave to victory in 2008 presidential election after 8 years of dissatisfaction with the GOP, a wave that swept up my sister into the position she is still best known for, the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury. Known by her enemies as the Shark of Wall Street, the Serpent in Stilettos, or my sister's personal favorite, Madoff's murderer. She gained a reputation for bringing the full power of U.S. law enforcement down on everyone, from Mexican drug cartels laundering their dirty money through the states to the white-collar criminals swindling investors for an extra buck, and everyone in between. My sister is the real deal. Women and girls all over the world look to her as a hero, a woman who has been able to do it all in a man's world. If she had left the cabinet on January 20th, 2017 and retired in solitude, no one would have blamed her. She had done more in her lifetime than the majority of Americans would dream of doing in 10. I myself could have done just as much as she had and been on the same level as her, but I told myself over and over again, my students came first, and I reluctantly passed on any opportunity she was afforded. I saw what a life like hers wrought. She couldn't let it go. She couldn't stop. She wouldn't stop. It was that iron will, that insistent drug that was the next thing for her that kept her moving. Her determination had won her over again. It was that determination that scares me about her. Because today, for the first time in her life, she'd be waking up to the world where that determination didn't give her the next promotion. The doors that had always swung open before her were locked shut this time. The pay raise, the new house, the new legacy, all dashed. She had come up short. How could I dare tell her that? How is she? I whispered it, as if she were in the room next door with a glass cup pressed to the wall. She's, well, overwhelmed, really. Arnold looked horrible. His youthful smile and dashing blue eyes that had graced every cover of the Mississippi papers in the 60s were now wrinkled and worn, the former governor a shadow of his prior self. Hell, when I first met the young politician, I was jealous of my sister for scoring such an attractive and ambitious man. The past 15 months had chewed him up and spit him out, a visual I never would have expected for the Arnold Durant I knew. Where is she? In her room. Still? She's with Benny. I scoffed. That idiot still allowed in here? Wasn't he the genius who decided she should cancel the Green Bay rally and sent her to Cedar Rapids instead? Rhonda, please, not now. Arnold? Come on. How is this helpful? If you don't get rid of him, I will. She shouldn't be listening to that dolt any... I moved toward the door to her room, but Arnold rose and blocked me. Rhonda, he whispered, his finger to his lips. Please, sit back down. Let them talk. It is really, really close right now, and she needs to be with Benny alone. How about you head on back to your aunt's? I thought you were staying there now. Nonsense, I snapped, pushing past him and turning the doorknob. Benny and my sister looked like deer in the headlights when they saw me, as if I had just walked in on them in an intimate moment. Benny was sitting on the edge of my sister's bed with a mocha latte in one hand and his overworked 2014 MacBook in the other. The little twerp couldn't hide the look of disgust on his face as he made eye contact with me, like I had just stuck my fist in his food. As unkempt and tired as Benny looked, my sister looked worse. Months and months of constant pruning, trimming, touch-up, and styling had finally gone out the window, and the pristine image of my regal-looking sister was only a shadow of the woman before me. Her eyes were tired and ragged, probably from tears. For the first day in over a year, she wasn't wearing makeup. Lines that I forget existed now were now front and center around her high cheekbones, the furrows of her forehead, and tugging at the corners of her lips as if begging her to smile. Her perfectly coordinated pantsuits lay crumpled at the foot of the bed like a rotting cocoon. My sister, now drowning in an oversized sweater like a molting butterfly. She had really let herself go in the past several hours since the polls closed. Maybe I should be the one to give that dreaded speech. "Rhonda!" Benny forced himself to exclaim, getting to his feet and rushing over to me like an overeager intern. "So nice to see you." "Scram," I snapped, not looking him in the eye. "But Sharon?" The campaign manager stammered, craning back at my sister as if she had the final say. "Leave?" my sister wheezed. Her voice was hoarse. Tired. Stunned. The woman who had won 38 out of 56 of the contests for the Democratic nomination and withstood months of endless encounters from the misogynistic media ranging from, "Can a woman really stand up to Russia and China?" Or, "If you pick a male to be your running mate, will you defer to him on issues like war, guns, and the economy?" Or my personal favorite, "What happens if you become pregnant?" Yes, that was a real question asked by a real news organization. Well, that woman was now MIA. My eyes never left my sister as Benny scrambled out of the room and closed the door behind him. "Sharon," I started, reaching out to take my sister's hand. "Sharon, I'm so sorry." "Sorry? About what?" "What do you mean?" I asked, taken aback. "Rhonda, what are you doing here? I thought you were with Aunt—" "Oh, Sharon," I sighed. "I came all the way here to see you. Please, talk to me. I know this is a tense time right now, but I just want to tell you how proud I am of you and how there's always a next time." I sat at the end of the bed and pulled her down until she was sitting right beside me. She stopped looking at me as if she could sense the dose of reality I was called in to deliver was coming. "Rhonda, there are precinct captains all over eastern Michigan calling Benny nonstop. They say there are still some mail-in votes left to count. Macomb County specifically. That's another 50,000 at least. That's more than enough to flip Michigan. And then in Miami-Dade, there are some absentee votes still left to count. Richie Eaton on RTN says they might have overestimated Steele's margin there. Michigan has 15 electoral votes and Florida has 30. That's plenty, Rhonda. Plenty." For the first time this morning, my sister had some life in her again. It was as if the little lies Benny was feeding her about her chances were successfully charging her up and giving her some optimism, as long as she said it enough. Like his lies were the gas to her engine, the fuel that kept the delusion alive just a little longer, as long as she said it over and over. My sister was the smartest person I knew, someone who could smell bullshit hundreds of miles away. So to see her rationalizing like this was concerning. Clearly, she had these words memorized by now, because she'd had to repeat them to herself thousands of times in order to break the metal barrier that was her common sense. So I guess I was the mechanic to my sister's proverbial car. The person called in by her husband to kick the Ivy League dork to the curb and give it to her straight. She had lost. She had lost. She was not going to be the first woman elected president of the United States. She was not going to be the heir to President Gardner. The Democratic Party was going to be in the political wilderness for 4 years at the least, and 8 years at the most, depending on Steele's performance. She was going to be too old to run again in 4 years, and her dreams of universal child care, major gun control legislation, enactment of a new and more humane immigration system, free community college and technical school for all Americans, and respect through diplomacy on the world stage were all dead. President-elect Damon Steele was going to pull the country rightward and shift the compassionate policies of President Gardner's administration into a backward, retrograde, and racist platform that would only further divide Americans. The man had done the impossible and convinced all of flyover country that he, the eccentric playboy, coastal elite tech billionaire, was the answer to their problems. He was going to make the country a worse place to live. And my sister had failed in stopping him. "Sharon, stop. Please." She glanced at me for the first time in a while, that look of optimism instantly fading. "What?" "You're too smart for this. You know he's selling you a bag of goods. You're down by 40,000 in Macomb. You'd have to get 90% of the remaining mail-in vote share to catch up, and you're currently getting 65% of that share statewide. And in Florida, you are currently losing the mail-in vote, not winning. I don't care what RTN and Richie Eaton are saying. Hell, half of them work for our party. It isn't going to happen, dear." "Stop," Sharon snapped with her finger now to her lips. "This is toxic. This is not what I need right now, Rhonda. You should be home." "Toxic?" "Yes, toxic. We've got work to do, Rhonda. A racist megalomaniac is about to take control of the United States if we don't fight. I called Ryan DeWalt, and he's flying in from Houston to help plan our legal fight. Electoral votes aren't certified until December 19th, and I think that Sharon..." "What?" Her voice had cracked a little. I'd made a chink in her armor. A nick of blood. She knew I was right. "Concede," I said. "For the good of the country. For the good of the party, concede." "Concede?" She gasped. "Are you joking? Concede to that maniac? Concede our great country to that racist trust fund robot freak? How could I do that to this country I love so much, Rhonda? No, I won't. I won this election. I won." "Sharon, now you can either get on board and save this country from that monster, or you can fuck off." I fucked off. Mind you, I've always been loyal to my country. Loyal to my party. I door-knocked for Jimmy Carter in 1980, for heaven's sake, even when it was clear Reagan was going to wipe the floor with him. I stood alongside Sharon and her husband during the Mississippi State of the State countless times. I supported Arnold's push for gun control legislation after the Jackson State University shooting killed 2 innocent students. I was a guest of my sister's at President Gardner's first State of the Union address in 2010. A guest invited to promote education and my sister's electoral ambitions. I'm a good Democrat. I'd never cede the country to a man the likes of Damon Steele without a fight. But Sharon lost that fight, and someone needed people around her who would tell her the truth. Unchecked, Benny would lead her on a wild goose chase hunting for ballots all the way until the electoral votes would be certified in early January. He and his consulting firm would be laughing all the way to the bank. Her husband, meek little Arnold Durant, a shadow of his former self when he was self-proclaimed Sheriff of the South during his tenure as governor, he was just as useless, terrified to death of my sister. I couldn't stand by and watch her be manipulated by Benny and enabled by Arnold. I had to step up. It was a week after the election now. Almost all the major networks, except for liberal darling RTN, had called the race for Damon Steele. He was going to be elected the 45th president of the United States. But my sister hadn't conceded. It was a national scandal. It was a big deal. Even Al Gore losing the presidential election in 2000 by a margin of 537 votes, and then losing the court battle to the right-wing Supreme Court justices. He even conceded. My sister was going down in infamy as a sore loser, and someone had to look out for her. When even the New York Times was printing articles about how my sister needed to be the bigger person or step aside for the sake of the country, you knew it was bad. "Rhonda!" Arnold exclaimed as he swung open the door to his Jackson, Mississippi manor. "What brings you all the way down here?" "Sharon. How's she doing?" "She's doing fine," he whispered, rushing me inside and closing the door as quietly as he could, as if his wife could hear a pin drop. He led me to the study, all the while his neck craning, on the lookout for my sister. "You've seen the results just like everyone," he whispered as he closed the study door behind us. "She needs to concede, Arnold." I know. But just give her time." "She's got a reputation to uphold, Arnold. Millions of women look to her as a trailblazer, an icon. It's unbecoming what's happening. Her assuming the presidency is impossible. Mickey Mouse has a better chance at this point. Where is she anyway? I need to talk to her." "Now is not the time for this, Rhonda, please. Give her some space. Give her some time." "What happened to you?" I asked him. Arnold looked crestfallen. His eyes grew watery and he looked down at his feet. I patted him on the shoulder. "You were sheriff of the South. You were the one in charge of your marriage. Sharon was your better half, not you hers. And I get it, you were term limited. There's only so much you could do versus her, who won the Senate seat. The papers, the tabloids, the politicos, they all forgot about you and put her front and center. And that's fine. But now, this is wrong. She's ruining her legacy and your legacy, Arnold. You need to step out of the shadows and stand up to her." "How?" Arnold hissed. He grabbed my shoulder and theatrically pulled me farther into the recesses of the house, as if we were being watched. He finally stopped pulling me once we were cloaked in the darkness of the garage. "You barge right into her office," I snapped, "and you tell Benny to get the hell out. You tell all her staffers and ass-kissers and yes-men to get the hell out. You look her straight in the eye and tell her you love her and that it's over. You're the only person she'll listen to, Arnold." He just shook his balding head. No. She had people coming today. People she's interviewing for her cabinet." "Her cabinet? Jesus, really?" "She wants to be ahead in case the results do go her way." Arnold sheepishly grinned. "You know she's a planner." My God, she's lost her damn mind. She just cares so much is all. "Oh, shut it, Arnold," I snapped. "If you aren't man enough to stand up to your wife, then I will be." Arnold shrugged. "I don't know what to tell you, Rhonda. I'm sorry." I opened my mouth to tell him off, but before the words left my lips, there was a knock at the front door. "Oh, he's here," Arnold exclaimed. "He?" Arnold ignored me and walked out of the garage, the door now ajar, and welcomed inside the last man on earth I wanted to see at this point in time. Benny looked light years better than when I had last seen him. His hair was slicked back, his skin was tanned, and his white teeth beamed at me as soon as we made eye contact. Gone was the ill-fitting Mark Zuckerberg-esque khakis and blue button-up that so caricatured Benny on the campaign trail. He was wearing a tight, slim-fit, too slim, blue suit jacket, blue dress pants, and a dark red tie. His nominally tolerable ego looked completely inflamed in his new getup, and I felt a pit in my stomach the second I noticed the badge on his chest. Benny Sandoval, Chief of Staff, Durant Administration. I wanted to murder him. What the actual hell, I hissed through gritted teeth, my rage propelling me like a magnet straight to the little twerp. What the fuck is this, Benny? Oh, this? He asked with his snide Ole Miss drawl he loved to drop in the middle of conversations, as if it were contractually obligated. President-elect Durant made all of us name tags. Hell, I think I have yours right here. Benny handed me a metal pin and winked. Check it out. Rhonda Durant, Special Advisor to the President, Durant Administration. I wanted to smash it against his smug face. You think this is funny? I snapped. What? Listen here, I snarled, my hands only inches from grabbing his collar. I know what you were up to. Oh, yeah? Benny laughed. What am I up to, Rhonda? Guys, Arnold hissed from behind Benny, keep it down. You know more than anybody that my sister lost the presidential election. You're stringing her along for yourself. You're playing into her fantasies and ginning up all this anger on the left. And for what? So you can make a pretty penny? Oh, that's rich, Rhonda. You're accusing me of fantasies. Benny, Arnold snapped, showing the first bit of spine I'd seen on him in years. Watch it. It's true, Arnold, Benny sneered. Best we start living in reality now that we've got a country to run. Hey, I know you're trying to start a digital firm of your own. What are you calling it? Blue Win or some shit like that? I interrupted. Blue Strategy. Whatever. There are millions of Americans out there who are going to believe this nonsense you're selling. You're going to send out fundraising emails and text messages claiming that the election was stolen, and my sister is the rightful president, and you're going to do X, Y, and Z in order to make it happen, and people are going to give you the money you want. Why? Because they want universal health care. They want an end to gun violence, a humane immigration system, respect, and peace on the world stage, and most of all, they want nothing to do with Damon Steele. So they're going to give you the money you want all the way until January 6th, and then you're going to abandon my poor sister and cash out. Rhonda, I know you are jealous of your sister's Jealous? Rhonda, Benny, Arnold hissed again, stomping over until he had a hand between us. You guys need to whisper. She's upstairs. Yes, you are jealous your sister is the first woman ever elected president of the United States, and you are only going to be a footnote. A fun fact, the sister to the first woman president, they won't even remember your name. Just that President Durant has a sister. I can't believe you'd even think that. Oh, I do, Benny smiled. He looked at his watch and out of the study toward the door. At once, there was a knock. Who now? I asked. The cabinet, Arnold whispered. I told you they were coming, Benny said. He ignored my protests and practically skipped over to the front door. He was engulfed in a sea of chatter, handshakes and laughing, which filled the walls of the manor. There had to be 30 people inside now, all dressed in formal wear, men in ties and women in pantsuits. Arnold, I exclaimed, who are all these people? Rhonda, Benny said, cutting Arnold off before he could reply. I'd like to introduce you to the transition team in the cabinet of the Durant administration. He smiled that snide smile and turned on his heels to glad hand with the Wall Street elite and Martha's Vineyard patrons that milled about in my sister's foyer. The people that apparently were now the executives in her imaginary cabinet. I was left standing there, dumbfounded, unable to articulate the words to describe how defeated I felt. Just looking at them made me sick. These wealthy, prestigious, Ivy League people wandering through my sister's house as if they owned the place. These people were supposedly the best and brightest among us, and yet they played along with Benny's little game. I moved deeper into the foyer to confront Benny again, but before I could get to him, I heard a clap to my left. A small, white-haired, librarian, attorney-looking woman started it. Loud, slapping claps. The type of claps that were more appropriate in a high school pep rally than a private home. Immediately, everyone around her burst into similar applause and turned their attention to the stairwell to the second floor, their eyes swimming with tears and their white teeth gleaming. My sister stood at the top of the stairwell, beaming down at each and every one of them, her hand on her heart in feigned bashfulness. Gone was the woman I saw only a week ago, her once exhausted, mascara-running eyes now vibrant and alive. Her frumpy and wrinkled sweatpants replaced with a perfectly white pantsuit. Her hair was done up, and her skin looked as soft as a baby's, caked in makeup from surely hours of work. Thank you, she mouthed down to the crowd as she patted her heart. I shot a gaze at Arnold, who was now at the bottom of the stairs. His clapping was weaker than everyone else's, his eyes nearly as shocked as mine. "Ladies and gentlemen," Benny shouted from my left, "the President-elect of the United States." The cabinet erupted, and another smile lit up my sister's face. She looked so alive and captivating up there, loving every second in the bask of the crowd, that even I was convinced for a moment that maybe she really had won the election. Thank you all so much. We have so much work to do, and I am so pleased that you will be the people to do it. We will continue the great work of our 44th president and usher in the third term of the Gardner administration with our work here in the Durant administration. More cheers, more applause. Sycophants, all of them. These were the smartest people in the world, and they knew my sister would never be president. None of those claps were real. None of those smiles. They were jackals and vultures, surrounding my poor sister on all sides to suck the last remaining pieces of relevance she still had before they cast her aside forever. Benny wanted his firm to be contracted for a recount. Some of these people wanted a place in her post-political future, gigs with her speaking tour, an introduction to others in the political space that she knew. My sister could open all the doors for these people, so if Benny wanted them to clap, by God, they'd clap. Our first mission is to hit the airwaves, my sister shouted. The right-wing media have claimed the election for themselves. Michigan and Florida are ours, no matter what Dick Harbaugh and his crew over on QLN say. Damon Steele is a clear and present danger to our country and espouses the worst instincts in those around us. I need you to work to stop him. Get on the Sunday shows, place op-eds, call your friends on Capitol Hill and the capitals across America. We need your help now more than ever. Your country needs you. The crowd erupted into another fit of cheers, and my sister beamed even wider. She began to make her way down the stairs toward us, shaking hands and fake laughing all the way down. Her laugh vanished as she finally saw me. "Sharon," I said. She grabbed my shoulder and gritted her teeth in a smile. She pulled me in close until her pink-adorned lips were right against my ear. "You need to go home." She then disappeared into the crowd. I never thought I'd feel anything but disgust watching a Republican being sworn in. I was at the Capitol when Reagan came to power. I had a horrible hangover that morning from the night of binge drinking that followed President Carter's landslide loss in 1980. That throbbing headache was the only thing I remember from that hellish January morning, other than watching that California cowboy put his hand on the Bible. The year 2000 was worse. I adored Bill Clinton, even after the trumped-up Monica fiasco. And I was convinced his VP, Al Gore, was going to be our 43rd president. I was alongside Arnold and my sister all up and down the South as they spoke as surrogates for the Tennessean. His appeal to the working class was as Clintonian as it got. And I didn't buy Bush's compassionate conservative nonsense whatsoever. That stupid slogan was the biggest oxymoron I'd ever heard. The day that idiot was sworn in, I cried myself to sleep. So, you'd think, seeing Damon Steele, the man who was the epitome of everything the Democratic Party was against, the man who was responsible for the modern internet, the rise of social media, and the general breakdown in the fabric of our democracy. Well, you'd think I'd be miserable. But no, I was looking forward to it, because it was what was right. The last time I had seen my sister was when she made me leave her home right after the election. The night the lackeys and enablers all around her gathered to game out the biggest electoral brawl that any of us had ever experienced. I wasn't surprised by Benny and the money-grubbing consultants that hang on to my sister like remora hang on sharks. Dick Harbaugh was right. I never thought a thought like that would ever enter my mind, but here we were. The liberal lamestream media is at it again, folks. They think we're stupid. They think you're stupid. Well, are you? Are you going to sit around and watch them steal this election? This is revenge for Bush versus Gore, I tell you, and if we don't do what we did then and get every lawyer, operative, and intern into Macomb and Miami-Dade, then we are going to live through 4 years of hell with that righteous, uptight, privileged, better-than-you-know-it-all in the Oval Office. How would you like that? Harbaugh hated my sister. Absolutely hated her. He'd had it out for her since Arnold was governor. He was the man personally responsible for stirring up such a frenzy against my sister that by the time she announced a run for the presidency, she had an opposition research file so big it would make Richard Nixon blush. Listen here, folks, I'm not a hyperbolic man. I pride myself in shooting straight. I call balls and strikes, but folks, this is something else. President Gardner wants his heir to finish his job of ruining the country, and if you see the kind of nonsense I've seen at the polls and what they're doing with the ballots, well, I don't know how much longer we can call ourselves the United States of America. I started watching his show a couple of days before the election. The small, overweight, sweaty potato of a man was always hunched behind his glittery QLN news emblazoned desk. His back so bent from age at this point, I felt the urge to reach through the screen and snap his posture into place myself. Though he had aged considerably since his beginning days wielding the political shock jock microphone that made him famous in the late 80s and throughout the 90s, his voice was still that crystal clear, pugnacious voice that galvanized millions of conservative supporters across the country. It wasn't his attacks on pro-choice issues or the Supreme Court or the frankly outrageous statements about immigrants that caught my attention. It was what he said about my sister. One particular attack that I knew was correct. She's entitled. She's been given everything in her life. Damon Steele grew up in South Africa and Madagascar. He built the world's biggest tech company and startup during apartheid, for heaven's sake. He's a genius, and trust me, he's made a hell of a lot more jobs for everyday working Americans than Sharon Durant ever has or ever will. He's a self-made man, and she's a power-hungry, entitled elitist coasting off her husband's career, all while rubbing her sister's face in it. She's delusional, and this election loss is going to be the first thing that woman has ever lost in her life. And it'll be good for her. He was right about her entitlement. I knew more than anyone that she thought she deserved to be POTUS. It was her time. She had gone through so much to lose now. It was hers. Liberals would play their typical tunes and wave off Harbaugh as an old racist misogynist who just had an unhealthy obsession with my sister. They'd reassure her that he was just trying to get under her skin. I couldn't count how many times I'd seen Benny whispering in my sister's ear about the latest QLN attack from Harbaugh and how meaningless and trivial it all was. Sharon Durant lives in her perfect little coastal elite bubble where nothing is ever her fault. You see, it's you plebes in middle America who, in her words, cling to God and guns. It's your fault she is tied with steel. It's your fault no one has been able to call this election yet. It's your fault you can't measure up to your sister. I was glued to QLN, glued to Harbaugh, glued to the unfolding reality in front of me that my sister was being deluded and misled into the worst mistake of her professional career. She was too far behind to catch up. Harbaugh had all the facts, as much as I hated to admit it. My sister couldn't handle that reality, so instead of rising to the occasion, she did as she always did and refused to let go of the power around her. I decided right then and there I wasn't going to enable her like the others. I wasn't going to fuck off and go home. I was going to... Rhonda! Rhonda, where have you been? Aunt Jerry stood in the kitchen, her hands on her hips. Her brow was furrowed with stress, as she surely was seeing what was happening too. I visited Sharon. Sharon? How? You went down to Mississippi? Yes, she and Benny are camped down there, still trying to find more ballots. Aunt Jerry stomped over to me and grabbed my arm and pulled me deeper into the kitchen. Rhonda, you know she doesn't want you there right now. This was important, Aunt Jerry. Very important. You see what she's doing, don't you? She's trying to get her way again, but it's not working. It's not this time. For the first time in her life, it's not working. And she's not going to get her way. And I'm going to be right for once. And everything will work itself out, dear, Aunt Jerry replied. You and I both know the last thing your sister needs right now is you gallivanting across the country to save her, okay? She's grown up, just like you, and she can handle... Not with those vampires talking in her ear. Oh my God, Rhonda. How much Dick Harbaugh are you listening to now anyway? Jesus, this is the United States of America. I'm certain that there are plenty of people smarter than you or I who are handling this election kerfuffle. Let's get you in a warm bath and calm you down. My aunt placed her varicose-veined hands on mine and pulled me toward the den, but I resisted. Rhonda, you're just as bad as they are. I left my aunt shocked in her place in the kitchen. I, Sharon Elizabeth Durant, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President. And will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So help me God. So help me God. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States. The trumpets of the United States Marine Band erupted into Hail to the Chief as my sister stood in front of her green screen. Arnold gave a sheepish laugh as he zoomed in on the video. I hired a whole team, video producers, extras, hell, even the director for those LLJ music videos. We went all out for Sharon. I've never seen her happier. You're awful, Arnold, just awful. She's in a delicate place, Arnold sighed. We'll ease her into the reality of her situation in a little bit. For now, hell, I don't mind paying a little bit for a fake inauguration and fake news alerts and whatnot. You got them, right? Of course I did, I snapped. I don't even want them. It's like you're rubbing my face in it. I held up my phone to Arnold's face. Breaking news. Sharon Durant takes the oath of office to become the 45th President of the United States. Live coverage. Sharon Durant's inauguration ceremony begins with a performance by LLJ. Durant delivers inaugural address, promising to break the Washington gridlock. Protests break out in Washington, D.C. as Sharon Durant is sworn in as president. Inauguration Day. Sharon and Arnold Durant attend the inaugural ball in Washington, D.C. President Durant signs first executive order rolling back building of competitor to Russian pipeline Nord Stream 2. World leaders congratulate President Durant on her inauguration, signaling new era of foreign relations. President Durant's inauguration draws historic crowds, both in support and opposition. Security tightens as Durant's inauguration parade marches through Washington, D.C. I'm getting them constantly, I snapped. Who the hell is writing these anyway? I wrote them last night. Benny has a guy that can reroute these bad boys to anyone who has ever used our Wi-Fi, so that's why you are getting them too. I felt defeated. I'd never be able to get through to my sister if I had to first go through Arnold. If he was willing to go as far as creating fake news alerts for her fake inauguration, he was too far gone to help me any longer. Just tell me this. How can I see her? I don't even know where she's really at. She's at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Arnold said. Come on. Where is she really? You heard me. We set her up with an office and everything. It adds to the illusion, Rhonda. It's helping her. How do I get there? Ask Aunt Jerry to help you, Arnold said. Listen, you know as well as I do that I cannot tell Sharon I'm talking to you. Not even supposed to be here. So you can't rely on me. And you can't call her or Benny up and ask if you can visit. Even though you are family, security is really, really tight. You mean the fake security you hired? Yes. It won't look real if they don't take their job seriously. So, going in there for a visit is a no-go. You have to go incognito. Sign up with an alias in the tour group. I know they aren't running background checks or asking many questions at the moment. So go with Aunt Jerry under an alias. And once you get to the West Wing, go into the Oval Office and you can talk to her there. Just be prepared. If Benny sees you, he isn't going to let you get within 500 yards of your sister, especially after all we've done to curate this experience for her. Don't worry, I said. I'm not worried about him. Tessa Bogart? Aunt Jerry asked, holding her name tag and looking at me with her eyebrows wide. Yep, Mrs. Bogart, I asked. I asked you what name you wanted, and you never responded. Well, I didn't think you were actually serious. Harriet Fowell? The two of us were standing in line outside of Arnold's multi-million-dollar I'm afraid of my wife monument. A massive White House, complete with a green manicured lawn, giant wrought iron gates, and what looked like snipers on the roof. The line was moving quickly enough, but I still felt anxious to get to my sister. I want to surprise her, I lied to Aunt Jerry. Surprise her? Aunt Jerry asked, dropping her purse into the conveyor belt and walking through the metal detector. She doesn't know we are coming, I said, and neither does her staff. I dropped my bag onto the conveyor belt and followed my aunt through the metal detector, careful to look at the ground and avoid the Secret Service member's eyes. Why not? Aunt Jerry hissed. I need to talk to her, and no way in hell her chief of staff is going to let me get anywhere close if he knew I was coming today. We joined the crowd gathering at the steps to Arnold's mansion and followed them in as the tour guide began talking. The house was completed in 1792 by James Hoban, an Irish-born architect. Much of the house you are seeing today is not the house of 1792 due to the British attack and burning of the White House that occurred on August 24, 1814. Silliness, Aunt Jerry spat. I should have known better. What? That Arnold has no spine, so he sends me to do his dirty work? Whatever, Rhonda. I just thought I was invited to have a nice day with my niece. Lord knows we need a day like that. I ignored her. She was so simple. Too simple. In all the years I'd lived with her, the only adventure in her life was staying up past 9. I couldn't let her know why we were really here. She had no clue Arnold was pacing by his phone right now, waiting for my status update. Many of the portraits on the wall are loans from the Smithsonian National Portrait Gallery down the road. Lyndon Johnson famously hated the portrait of himself that hangs straight ahead, claiming it was the ugliest thing he ever saw. I looked past LBJ's painting to the room to its left and felt my pulse quicken. Even as a cheap copy, Arnold's Oval Office looked magnificent to behold. The white walls, the elegant red, white, and blue carpet, and the golden drapes that framed my sister so beautifully were mesmerizing. A group of school children were posing in front of the desk, my sister smiling behind it, the presidential seal gleaming as if it was mocking her. I clenched my fists. I gritted my teeth. I made my way to the entrance. "Rhonda!" Aunt Jerry hissed. "Rhonda! Harriet! Where are you going? Get back! Get back here!" I ignored her. The moment I crossed the threshold of the room, Sharon's smile vanished. Her advisors all froze, as did the students and their photographer. Benny Sandoval was on me in a second. "Rhonda!" He snarled, his eyes fire. He grabbed my arms and pulled me toward the exit. "What the hell are you doing here?" "I'm finishing this," I said. "I'm coming for my sister." "Oh, you are," he laughed. "I see. How silly of me. Security!" He was looking out into the hallway at the guards standing near Aunt Jerry and the rest of the tour group. "Let go of my arm," I snapped. No. This silliness has gone on far enough, Rhonda. Yes, can you please take her? "Sharon!" I shouted, trying to peer over Benny's shoulder. "Sharon!" "That's enough, ma'am," a security guard shouted, grabbing the back of my shoulder. "Sharon!" I screamed. "Sharon, please! Listen to me! This is fake! It's all fake! You need help!" "Officer, I am so sorry. I really don't know what is getting into her." I could hear Aunt Jerry plead from behind me. "Ma'am, it's time to go." "Sharon, you lost. You know you lost. Now please come home with me." "And ma'am, I said it's time to go." Listen to the man, Rhonda. Benny grinned down at me, his grip squeezing all the life out of my wrist. "Shut up," I snarled. "Just face it," he said. "You'll never be as good as her." "Oh, yeah?" I grabbed the pen clipped to his breast pocket, clicked it open, and stabbed it right into his eye. I had seconds left. Seconds to tell Sharon what she needed to hear. Seconds before the guns blazed and I dropped to the red, white, and blue carpet, now more red. Seconds before I was tackled and subdued. Seconds before Sharon would let out a scream and realize what was happening to her. Seconds. Milliseconds. It just wasn't enough time. Now, before I get into the heart of the program, ladies and gentlemen, I would be remiss not to mention what everyone in the liberal mainstream media refuses to talk about. We have a false president in the White House. A false, fraud, cheater in the White House. This woman is such an obvious fraud that her own sister was shot and killed in the Oval Office by the Secret Service today because she tried to deliver the truth. Yes, folks, that's the breaking news the mainstream does not want you to hear. Rhonda Durant knew her sister was a fraud and was killed for it. The poor woman was practically institutionalized by her wacko liberal aunt for the past couple years, medicating her with every drug imaginable to try and tamp down her so-called mania. Hell, her aunt even claimed Rhonda Durant was talking to Sharon Durant's dead husband. That Mississippi governor from the 60s? The one with the sheriff of the South bullshit? They think we are stupid. Well, we here at QLN are not stupid. And we know something is obviously going on. There is more than meets the eye about this attack. I want you all to know that I will never let Rhonda Durant's life end in vain. From here on out, and this is from one patriot to another, I will not rest until I find out the truth of what happened to Rhonda Durant today. That's a Harbaugh promise. Thank you so much for letting me share my story with you. If you'd like to hear more Hampton tales, please subscribe. My final 3 stories in this collection, Just to the Mailbox, Partners, and Annie Loves Her Life, are available exclusively on Audible and Amazon. Click the link in the description for details. It means the world to me to be able to share my stories with you. Thank you.